the personalities that we have, and our willingness to help and teach others. A little bit of background on me. I have been in this field of coaching and training for, oh boy, now almost 20 years. So it's been quite some time, and it's been quite a journey. And each and every day that I do it, it continues to bring me joy and excitement and energy. And hopefully that is the same for you when you're doing your work and your teachings with your students. I call them my students. They're just adult students. I was in the same situation as you at one point. I went to Rhode Island College and going through the education process. And, you know, I didn't know I was going to go for health and phys ed, actually. And I didn't know what the right path for me was. I knew I wanted to be in this field. I knew I wanted to teach. I knew I wanted to help others. I knew I was passionate about that. I never liked the process of the teaching where you had to pick, the direction in terms of secondary ed, elementary ed. I always felt it was very, very like, well, I could see myself doing both, Long story short, I made my change to what we call community health education, which gave me a broader sense of being able to work with different areas and industries and whatnot. Make a long story short, again, I started creating my own business eventually, and from my knowledge of learning the field and whatnot to where I am today. I do want to start off by saying thank you to all for what you do. I hope this is not something I hope that you haven't heard this a lot here today, but I want to thank you all for what you do on a daily basis. I know the last couple of years has been extremely hard for you, and I don't think you get enough credit for the work that you have done over the last couple of years in the pandemic. And I think it's really important to recognize you. So this is me giving a round of applause to all your teachers, administrators, and stuff like that, because I don't think I think you get left out in the cold a little bit in terms of the people who have had a really rough go of it over the last few years. And I think you guys deserve a definite round of applause and a thank you coming from a parent of students in this district or in the districts, and what I see from the outside as an objective view. So thank you all. I appreciate it all. I appreciate the hard work you're doing. So going back to coaching and teaching, I think it's really important to remember that we're passionate. We are caretakers for what we do. One of the biggest things that I want to talk about today is how you can improve your own life or your own health or wellness, and how you can relate it not only to your teachings and to your students and whatnot, but at the same time, this can be something that parallels to pretty much anything in your life. So it doesn't have to be just health or wellness. I'm going to talk from that angle, but at the same time, a lot of these things that we can talk about are going to be geared towards anything in your life in general. It doesn't have to be specific health or wellness. So I always want to talk about the first thing when it comes to being the enemy or the reason why we're not reaching or where we want to be. And I want to kind of open this up to you as we go through and we talk about a couple of things. I'd be open to asking you guys to participate. You're all teachers. You're all administrators. You've been in this field for quite some time. You know that a call or a class goes much better with participation. So I'm gonna be calling you on out at certain points. But what do you guys feel is the number one stressor or reason why we are not achieving our goals or becoming productive on a daily basis, weekly basis, monthly basis? Anybody have a clue as to what that may be or where I'm getting at here? The number one reason, is it not having enough time, lack of support, knowing what to do but not really doing it, genetics, that fast food restaurant down the street, that person that you live with? Anybody got an idea? You can just take yourself off of mute and shout out. Technology. That's one of the reasons why. Okay. Anybody else? Technology.
Time.
Was that one, Gene?
Time.
Okay.
Kathy had the same thing, right?
Kathy had the same thing. Ellen, did you want to say something?
I agree with that. Time constraints. There's just not enough time in the day.
Now, okay. Anybody else want to join in on this one?
Just yourself. You get
Lauren. Yes. Lauren, coming from the overpass on I-95 there. Great. That was fantastic. Wow. Yes, you're absolutely right. Well, that's the area I'm trying to get at. And I'm getting at this in a sense of, as I've been there before. I've done it before. Yes, time plays a role, but we all have the same amount of time in our day. Lack of support is another thing that plays a huge role, but it really comes back to us. The list can go on and on as to why we don't do things, but it's ourselves, right? And a lot of times when that happens comes self-overwhelm or stress that can really limit us to really think clearly or think objectively towards our situations, and then how to really act moving forward. Oh, that's a good one too. We just had a chat there saying socially challenged with classmates, kids. Yeah, I got you on that one. But when we're talking about us trying to focus on right now, just what it is that we're able to control in those cases. And that's ourselves. So that's the first thing we want to obviously recognize in those cases, so that when we become overwhelmed, what can we do? What can we do? Not everybody else, not things that we can't control. What can we do to make that change? And it starts really simple. I want to talk about just simple things here today, because when we get overwhelmed, we can't think clearly. It happens to me. It happens to everyone else. And we can all get in our way from time to time, right? There's a few ways we can let it happen. You know, you haven't made reaching your goals, or, you know, things that you're prioritizing an actual true priority. You know, maybe this could mean you let your healthy habits slide when you're stressed, you know, you're tired, or something more fun comes along. And again, like I said, I'm going to talk in terms of the health aspect, but this can really relate to any aspect in your life. There's such thing as imposter syndrome. You don't think you're worthy of the things that you want to achieve, which makes it easier to say, not a big deal because I'm not worth it. I'm no good. That's something that I coach to all of my amazing women on a weekly and daily basis, that they are worth it, and that they do make this world go round. And so you need to think 360 degrees different. You haven't set yourself up for success. Now, this could be you know, a three-planned approach here when you go along these lines, but it's super easy to get discouraged and quit when you don't have a plan, support, or accountability. So having those aspects really play a huge role into allowing you to have that energy and motivation to keep moving down your path of positivity, is what I call it. And that's staying on the same path and continuing to build off of that on a daily basis. I like this one a lot. Something that we talk about all the time. You don't think you have the willpower. Everyone struggles from time to time. I'm coming from a point where I don't want you to think that I don't struggle on a weekly basis. I do. We all struggle with different things. It's, like I said, knowing what it is that we struggle with and how we can then, of course, move forward with that. So I, by no means, am an individual who doesn't struggle with things on a day-to-day basis. But when you know why your goal or the things that you're trying to do matters to you, right? It's easier to overcome those struggles. Has anyone, if you would like to share, I'd love to hear it, got into that situation where you've struggled with something and then boom, it hits you and you know exactly what that is. And then it becomes so much more clear now on how to approach it. Anybody want to share with that? Anybody have an experience like that? Feel free to take yourself off of mute. No one, not one. Oh my goodness.
It is funny.
That's strange, right?
I can think of a bunch, like when I'm teaching, I can think when the kids like have that, like, you know, can finally get jump rope, and it's like, oh, you know, or I just had kids running for 3 minutes and they did it and they were like, oh my God, I figured it out, like the pacing, but I can't think of a personal one.
Okay. So, well, this is one of the reasons why I'm on this call, because, and this is kind of what we can eventually jump to. I'm going to say this a little later, but in order for us to help others, okay, I learned this a long, long time ago. In order for us to help others, we have to help ourselves first. And maybe you've heard that before, but if anything, that's a perfect example where I'm asking you guys about a simple situation where you have overcome something or you've recognized it, and not one of you can give an example. You can give example of how you've seen it from others as an objective view, but we can't do it as ourselves. Now, I know it's not easy when we're going on the day-to-day, we're stressed, we are trying to give. Oh yeah, and give some more for everybody else, but we're not recognizing ourselves. So how are we going to actually be able to pass that on, have that energy, not have stress, be able to sleep better, eat better, all those things, which we know is going to make us more productive on a daily basis for those others. But we cannot recognize those things, right? So that's a great point, Kathy, that you make there. And I think many of you obviously are in a situation where not knowing what matters to you, how much easier it is to overcome those struggles when that is the case. So we have to recognize them. And this is where just becoming aware of our own simple things that we have to start working on. Okay. We talked about our own sabotage, like ourselves are the people that we need to be focusing on, not everybody else when it comes to these challenges or struggles. Last one, another way we can let ourselves get overwhelmed or get ourselves in a rut is you let something slip or derail you. Okay. I mentioned before, I'm not perfect. No one is, and they're never going to be 24/7. But the people who reach their goals, or reach their priorities or things along those lines will have a slip up, dust themselves off, and essentially figure out what went wrong and get back at it. And it's probably the same darn thing that you would teach or you would tell your students, right? However many people have had a student where you've seen them down and you've coached them in some sort of way. Would anybody want to give an example of something like that? Jill, I see you wiping your eyes. Anything from you?
I teach PE and also peer leadership. And I have a student who has to drive her special needs brother to work before school. And so we talked about it because she comes in late, at least 3 days a week. And my class is at 7:30. So we talked through it and we got her hooked up with a social worker so that he could get transportation. And she didn't know that because she's not special ed, like the options that are out there. And that was huge. She's been late all year when she got to her license, because her family depended on her to drive.
So it's identifying that problem there and then providing with that solution.
Yeah, helping her with a solution she wasn't aware of.
Because otherwise she was self-sabotaging and she's probably feeling a certain way, upset, disappointed, things along those lines, which, like I said, can you imagine if you're feeling that way on a daily basis? We hear enough negative crap on a daily basis, right?
Yeah.
From the things that we see, on the news, social media, the list goes on and on. And, that's probably multiplied by 5 up here because we're living with this on a daily basis if we're constantly having these conversations with ourselves. So that's a great solution there. Anybody else want to share?
I'll share again.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm a talker. And I'll go back to the kids at school, and when and I'm going to throw jump rope out again because they struggle, and it's such a hard thing for kids, and just trying to get them to continue practicing and realizing that, I can't do it. Well, you've only tried 5 times. You know what? You may need to try 500 times and then you will get it. And just giving them those little ways, maybe getting a longer jump rope, a lighter jump rope. I have a little couple different modified jump ropes, but just being able to, show them if you try a lot of different things. And sometimes they just have to step back and look, you're not the only one struggling. If you look at the 20 kids right now that are trying to jump rope, everybody's at their own level. Everybody's doing what they can. And that's super important, and getting those kids to celebrate that you doing 5 jumps is just as amazing as that kid who's doing 105 jumps because you got 5 jumps, those struggles are hard.
I'm right in the same book with you because I do this with adults when it comes to jump roping. So I can imagine the struggle for you though, because for children, it's hard for them to step back and say, hey, oh yeah, that person is doing that. I do feel a little better now that same person is it. I think it's probably a little easier to be able to talk to an adult sometimes and be able to say, hey, you just did 5 jump rope and that person over there did the same thing. Now we're not trying to compare ourselves, but just so you're not alone here. But again, then when as adults, right, we run into the bad thing of habits and years and years and years of things that we've been doing, or that we've essentially been saying to ourselves for years. For kids, it kind of just rolls off their shoulder and they move in a different direction. So for the adult aspect, and this is where we're all at this point, where, you know, it's overcoming things that we have built up for so many years and now trying to think a different way. And all we need to be doing is just starting simple in that, and just recognizing that when we do have, or we are faced with an obstacle or something that we're not getting done, or we're not reaching a goal, that we have to look at ourselves, and that we have to make sure that these things that we just talked about, you know, making sure your goals are a priority, making sure you don't have, you know, any sort of imposter syndrome, making sure you're setting yourself up for success, knowing that you have the willpower, and don't let, you know, one thing go wrong derail you completely. And those are just some of the things that, you know, kind of come off the top of my head. I'm sure there are dozens more, but I think the thing to keep in mind is knowing yourself and being aware of what things that you tend to get in on your own, or in your own way, will only help you become stronger for yourself, which in then can turn into stronger or better for those people that you want to continue to help and teach. Again, I mentioned, I think for this is a great call for me to do, because I consider myself a teacher. I'm a coach. I'm a teacher, just as like you. So we have a very similar personality, and that can lead to so much about us not taking the time for ourselves. And it's so easy to miss that, and we get stressed. I want to share a little bit of something that I used to do when I was younger. It used to be something that, you know, I did, and now I look back and I'm like, I can't believe it. It absolutely blows my mind that I used to do this. I used to be in the, what I called, I think I call like ignore it and push through it type of motto or club. Anybody ever been there before? Raise your hand. Have anybody ever been there before? Just ignore it. You got an issue, push through it, and we'll hopefully deal with it tomorrow, the next day, the next day, the next day. Decent plan, right, at first, or a good idea at first. And then, of course, we can tend to crash and burn, that type of thing. I'll deal with this later. Super proud of myself. I got past this. Yeah, I can take it. But even though, you know, I was able to handle the work, I didn't always manage the stress. And then guess what? You know, eventually, one way or another, I had to end up dealing with stuff, you know, or we end up having to deal with it in the long run. You can end up getting sick, you know, having headaches. That's something that that has kind of been something that I've been struggling with over the past X amount of years. Some people can get injured, or even feeling burned out. Like, I'm sure as a teacher, that's probably come up a bunch of times, right? The statement of burned out. Anybody, especially over the last couple of years, anybody burned out? In a positive way, though. Okay, you don't have to be upset about raising your hand. All right, no one's going to say that you're done. It's one of those things where, yes, we're all human beings. Those things will happen, especially when there's more and more and more asked of us, and we are doing well. Yeah, Sandra feels the same way. John does. Yeah, it's a really tough feeling to do, because we're, you know, making that, we're pushing things aside and waiting for it to eventually pop. So we don't want to get to that point. If you're part of that club or that motto, you want to consider jumping over to more of a self-care, right? Self-care club instead of the push it through, because it's where the real power is. And I hope you see where we're going at with this whole talk and this whole focus, is that when we focus on ourselves, it's allowing us to be better for those that we want to help. And that's what you are. You're healers, you're helpers, and that's what you are meant to do. And that's what you have passion to do. So why not put yourself in the best situation to do it? Now, this doesn't mean that you have to pass on your responsibilities to someone else or abandon everything that you do currently. It starts simple. It just means you need to start listening to your body and managing your stress, or your stress levels along the way. So a few things, and if you guys want to write this down, some things that I recommend. And I think some of these things are simple, but very manageable. And when we look at it as an objective view, it can really, really help us along the way. So first and foremost, taking a breath. All right. How many of us, when we get stressed, actually stop and take a breath? Like, literally, be honest. It's something that I teach my kids. It's something that I've learned that I wanted to teach them years ago, because there's nothing worse, right? When a kid gets frustrated, what do? And they pound and they stomp their arms and their feet, right? And it's the worst feeling in the world when you see it, because you know, for them, all that tension, that stress, and that turmoil is up here. And that's the only way they know how to get there. But adults do it too. It's just dispersed in a different way. Well, actually, believe it or not, I've seen adults do that before. I've seen adults kick and scream, yeah, and do that. True story. True story. Or they sit out and don't participate. Yeah, that's another one. Very good, Sandra. Yeah, I think that's probably that's a whole nother way. So just a different type of personality. So taking the deep breath, super, super important, because that allows you to stop everything. Right. One of the best ways to get out of your rut is to obviously not continue to do the same thing you're doing. Right. That's the definition of insanity, repeating the same thing over and over and over and over again, expecting the same result. So we can all take a deep breath. And when you're stressed or busy, taking a few minutes for controlled, mindful breathing, it can really help your body's stress really control the job, or, focus on the task at hand. The next simple thing you can do. All right. And Kathy, why don't you get up and start doing this, because you have not been doing it all day, is get up and move your body. All right. And it's that simple. I know. And I know this is hard to think about when you're in classroom, your lesson planning, whatever it is that you're doing, and you got a million things you need to do by a certain time frame, or the next day or the next week or whatever it is, you crunch for time. But
I did move to the exercise ball, Ryan. So
you're sitting on the exercise ball. Okay. What color is it? Show me proof.
Blue.
Okay, it's blue. All right. That's very good. Very good. See that? Anybody else on the ball? Anybody else on the exercise ball? That's tough to do, and that's a very simple way of making an adjustment if you sit a lot. And people don't realize the importance of back strength, midsection strength, posture, and things along those lines, and what that does for your demeanor, your energy. Whole nother call for another time. So moving your body, one of the best stress relievers out there. And I don't like to necessarily always use the term exercise, because sometimes it's looked at a negative connotation, but so I usually like to say physical activity. It works on hormonal levels to help you feel calmer, less stressed, and really more relaxed, which allows you then to what? Anybody know? I just pointed to something. I'm giving you the answer. It's a home test.
Think better.
Think better, think clearly, right? Allows us to then, once we think clearly, take better action. One of my favorite excuses from people is I lack the motivation. I don't have motivation. It's not a thing. We all don't have motivation. Okay. Motivation is based on taking action. And one of the most simple things to do is start doing something. So we talked about taking a deep breath. We talked about moving. Another thing that I like to recommend is get a new perspective. A lot of studies will show out there that spending time outdoors or in nature for just a few minutes can help cut out stress. So if you're free, and I know you can't do this necessarily during a class. Oh, that teacher just went out the door. Or they just went out the window. I know some of you are probably thinking that might be a good idea. Maybe that's why there's locks on the outside of those windows sometimes. But you guys are picking up what I'm putting down here. And that is just to clear that mindset when we get stressed, when we start losing focus. So getting outside will allow you to do that. Another thing that's very simple and easy to do is upgrade your nutrition or hydration. And I'm not talking about going from A to Z today. I'm talking about small, simple ways of building on up so you can stay consistent. And in the long term, okay, have lifelong success. So when we have those stressors, when we're beating up on ourselves for our self-sabotage or whatever it is that we mentioned earlier, stress can create, these situations where we crave high calorie foods that contain a lot of sugar and a lot of fats. And this can make you feel tired, sluggish, or basically just blah, right? So, it's simple things like upgrading your choices to things that include more nutrient dense whole foods or things that'll help you to make you feel better. And it doesn't mean, like I said, that you have to, get a world-class chef and you're cooking all your meals or batch cooking, 6 hours on a Sunday for your whole week. It means just replacing, your normal daily brownie with something even better, even if that means just a small upgrade to a granola bar instead of a brownie. You know what I'm saying? And there are a bleep ton of different types of granola bars out there. So you can even go better than that. But there's always one of those situations where you can even go a little bit better. And anytime we try and do too much, what happens? We come overwhelmed, we lose sight of what happens. So we can't think as clear. So changing up the nutrition, hydration, very, very important, small amounts. One of the best things you can do for hydration, and whenever I tell people this, they look at me like I have 6 heads, is to drink with a straw. Anybody not drink their water with a straw? Now, I know there's an age-old myth that if you suck on a straw, you're going to get more wrinkles around your face and your eyes. So a lot of people don't like to do it, but I've been doing it for years and I actually have less wrinkles. All right. Gene, did you have something to say? Gene, I saw you sucking down a smoothie earlier. Good job, buddy. Was that a green smoothie you were drinking?
Me?
Yeah, Gene. Is it that they still go by Gene?
No, I wish it was. It's
No.
sugar-free sweet tea by Gold Peak.
Okay.
More points on my Weight Watchers program. It's
I got you.
unbelievable.
All right, good for you. So
Now this is water here.
yeah, that's water. So
Thank
straw
you.
drinking. Okay, here's the tip: if you've never drinking water, I'm not just talking to you, Eugene. I'm talking to everybody. When it comes to drinking water, right? It's a perfect example. I'm talking. I just took a nice gulp of water, and I was not unable to stop my speaking. All right. When we are in a setting like you guys are for the most part, where you're constantly talking, right? It's easy to forget. You looking at your water and saying, oh, I'm thirsty, but I'm talking or I'm doing something, so I'm forgetting to drink, right? So when you have your straw, okay, you can always just quickly go, and you know what, Kathy, I really love that blue stability ball that you're sitting on there. So I didn't even miss a beat, but I got a little bit of water in at that point. As opposed to if I had a glass of water here or even a water bottle, right? You pick it up and you're talking to someone. We've all been there, right? You go for the water bottle, you drink it, and then someone says something, you get it all over your face, all over your shirt. And it's not only embarrassing, but you didn't get any hydration in at that point. And then you're like, I'm not doing this again, and I'm putting it over to the side. So straw drinking allows you to really not miss a beat. And because you can take in more from a straw than you will with that little sip that you make and not get it all over your place, you're actually going to increase your hydration level. So even if you guys take one thing from this talk today, start drinking with a straw. You'll be more hydrated, which will get you to have more energy, live longer, sleep better, have less stress. And bada bing, bada boom, like you'll be set for life, right? And so the last 2 things I want to talk about would be making time for recovery, aka sleep. Now I know for some of you this is kind of foreign, right? Should I ask it? All right, I will. Show of hands, who gets a recommended 7 hours of sleep a night? 1, 2, 3. Now for all of you who are not showing your video, okay, teachers out there, feel free to take yourself off and wait. Okay, we got a couple of high fives out there. We got a couple of people who are sleeping on this right now. I see them. No, I'm kidding. So yeah, we tend to forget how important that can be, right? It's because things got to get done, or this task has to get done, or this goal has to get done, or there's a deadline, right? But again, if we're going back to our main concern, and that is helping people, teaching and being compassionate. Yes, question?
No, Ryan, someone just came in and so it said recording in progress.
Oh, okay, gotcha. All right, cool. Then we're going to need to make sure that we're getting that time for recovery. Now, our bodies, and whether you want to take this in a physical activity realm or not. So when I teach to my clients when it comes to doing physical activity, most people actually think that their body is changing when they're doing physical activity. That's actually the opposite. Your body makes these changes during rest. And when is the time that we rest? It's the only time is when we sleep. That's when we actually go into full rest mode. So that's going to allow our body to recover from yesterday or the previous days, so you can be rejuvenated to tackle any sort of things that come your way randomly on a Wednesday at 2 p.m. So you want to make sure that you're not only going to bed earlier, but you're actually sleeping earlier, so you can get that recommended 7 to 8 hours of sleep almost every night. Now, I'm not saying it's easy. I know. I get up at 3:45 every single day. So that means I got to be in bed around 9 p.m. every day, roughly. Sometimes I'm sleeping at 9, sometimes I'm not. I've kind of set up a situation for myself where it's kind of a part of what I do now. So I think for the most part, I can get by with 6.5, 7 hours of sleep for the most part, 5 hours of sleep sometimes. But it's very, very essential in terms of getting consistent sleep. And that's where a lot of people really struggle, is that they might get 7 hours one night and then 2 to 3 the next 3 or 4 nights. And then your sleep cycle's all off. Again, preventing you from maximizing your recovery. And I'm not just talking about your body. Your brain is the single most important muscle that you have. So again, if you want to do the best that you can on a daily basis, the sleep is key. The last one I think is the most important in this case, because as teachers and as educators and as helpers, we have a personality where we tend to the can-do attitude pretty much on our own, right? If somebody can't help us, that's okay. We're going to power through. We'll take on the role. We'll move forward and we'll figure it out on our own to kind of make it happen. Having a support system for yourself or building a support network, I cannot tell you how important that is. And luckily you guys have somewhat of a network to work off of, because you're all in a similar district, you're all in a similar field. But having people around you who hold you accountable, that is everything. Think about that. Think about the people who are important in your life and how they help or have helped create, what successes you have. Does anybody have anybody special in their life or a group of people in their life that they're willing to share here that have helped them and to put them in a better situation to succeed? Anybody want to share?
I'll jump in and actually, one of the people.
My wife? Oh my God, I was going to say the same thing.
No.
Oh my goodness. Wow. I wish she was on.
No, we have a group of teachers at school who have joined the Peloton cult, but we very much hold each other accountable. You come in every day and it's like, did you ride this morning? Hey, I did that ride with you. And everybody's always kind of checking in and making sure, and it makes a big difference. Like, I never thought I was a morning exercise person, but I get up every morning and I go down and I pedal away. And some days it's a recovery ride and some days it's like a full on, sweat myself silly.
Oh, what were you going to say there?
Myself silly. But either way, like, it is just to have that moment where you're in school and, like somebody walks up and is like, hey, you didn't see you this morning, where, it's just nice to have somebody kind of acknowledge that you're doing it and feel your pain when you're feeling your pain.
See, I think that's probably the most important part right there, is knowing, and we talked about it before, is knowing that you're not alone. If anything, we've learned over the last few years that, the importance of social interaction and how important it is. And when we are not having it, how isolated we can get, and how, going back to what we said before, how we can get in our own heads. So support system. Anybody else want to share? Anybody else willing to share? Willing? Look at all these teachers.
I'll share.
Yeah, Lauren.
I just really love working with my colleague Ingrid, who's in this meeting as well. We're always bouncing things off each other, and it's nice to have someone there for support and to create with and collaborate with. So at school, I think we inspire each other. And we have a great PE department in Barrington. I think most of them are in this meeting as well.
Hi, I'm here from my Peloton.
Oh, hi.
Oh, there she is.
So it's nice to have all the support we have with our teachers in Barrington, and especially my colleague Ingrid. Thanks, Ingrid.
Where's Ingrid? Where is she? Now
She was
Ingrid,
just on her Peloton.
you have to talk. I was going to say, where'd she go? Now
I'm
she
back.
has to talk.
Going off of what the both other women had said earlier, sorry, I'm like out of breath on my Peloton.
Keep
But
working, girl. Keep working. We ain't stopping you.
This past year has been like really challenging. I had some setbacks with family at home. So I'm actually doing a 300-mile virtual bike tour.
Yeah,
And
I saw
listening.
that.
Yeah.
I saw the well. I know they've done certain ones before on that on the software. I mean, on the app and whatnot. So
Yeah.
continue.
So definitely having like a good support system is definitely helpful to like overcome any challenges that you're having or setbacks, and having people like hold you accountable or check in and be like, hey, like other than work, but in both aspects of life is really important. So yeah.
So important. Now is that helping you to say you don't want to get on a ride one day, knowing that you have to report back in certain ways? Is that helping you to kind of overcome those challenges? And you know, again, this doesn't have to be just physically, you know, focused on physical activity, but in these cases they are. How has that helped you to kind of keep pushing through and motivating yourself to your commitment to you?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a part of like who we are. I mean, we're physical educators, but there are some times where it's really difficult to want to continue for your kiddos, and giving back to yourself helps to fill your bucket, and then in turn help to fill others' buckets around you. So
I love that. I love that phrase, filling your own bucket. I'm going to take that and use that from now on. Okay.
Ingrid, what's your leaderboard name?
what'd you say?
Here we go.
What's your leaderboard name?
I think it's Ingrid. I have to look at it. I'll send it to you.
Yeah,
I honestly don't know.
She can't just post that everywhere.
It wouldn't matter to me anyway.
Well, you know what, Ingrid, it might not be a bad thing because you've just gained an additional 24 support system followers that we can check in on you each and every day to make sure that you are still continuing the challenge, right? So there you go. So feel free to just post it to us all, and we'll just check in on you, me included. And then if we
I'm
don't,
hoping to hit 300 miles by Friday. Right now, I'm halfway.
oh, congratulations! That's great. That's great. You'll get there, girl. Keep on. You mean you just keep on going. So, anybody else want to share? And again, I think if anything, this is super important for all of you, just to note that, like, hey, we need that. We need that. There's no one person out there who doesn't need someone or something or some support system to be able to guide them, to be able to bounce ideas off of. In my personal experience, yes, I'm going to use my wife because we are so connected in terms of being a couple, but at the same time being business owners together, and being parents together. But I will tell you, there is no other individual in my life that I can communicate with like I can with her. And when that does happen, the amazing things that come of it. Ellen, I think I cut you off.
Oh, no, I was just going to say I have like the opposite of what Kathy and Ingrid were talking about, because.
Well, there's a support system, a little feline.
Yeah, I'm pain in my neck. I always wanted to run a marathon, not a full marathon, but like a 10K maybe. Okay. Before I turned a certain age, which I won't tell you what that age is. And it's easy to read in the book.
40's not old at all. Okay. 40's not old.
40's not old. Thank you.
I got 2 years, so I'm gonna be right there.
But you know, you can read all the books about how to train and everything else, but if you don't have a trainer or somebody that will go with you, it's so hard to get motivated to get out there and run, because you have to enjoy running, first of all, to do that kind of thing. Yeah. But you know, and I just wish there was somebody that I could hook up with that would just go run with me, and maybe I wouldn't get up in the morning and say, oh, it's too cold, or oh, no, I don't feel like going today. So
now, one of the other things to start simple in cases like that, obviously, is reaching out. There's plenty of different groups out there that, you know, and I can even suggest some different ideas to you, you know, off camera or whatnot. But the key to that would be, you know, it's great to have that support system, which is, you know, something key. But if it's something you truly want to do, just start doing it on your own. And it does not require you to be making huge time sacrifices. And then as you get more involved in that, you're going to feel better about that situation and doing that. And chances are it's going to lead in a direction where you're going to actually probably meet up with somebody or know somebody at that point, or hear about it, or just be more in tune to making note that, hey, that person does this or that person does that. And I'd love to be able to see if they want to connect to doing something. So yeah, that's exactly what I do. You know, for the most part, I'm an accountability coach, and that's what I do. And I get to go and love what I do on a daily basis, to get people to do stuff that they wouldn't normally do on their own, because they know that I'm going to be paying attention, or I'm going to be concerned if they don't, because they are making the attempt or the time for themselves. And I want to make sure that they do the best they follow through. Barbara, did you have something to say? I saw you pop on and you look eager, like you want to speak. I'd love to hear from you. No, are you sure? I'd love to hear from you.
No, I really didn't have anything to add.
No worries. No worries. Anybody else?
I have something.
Yeah, Jill. Yeah.
Mine's really different. I have a very isolated work experience. I'm an itinerant teacher. I go to 11 schools. I don't have much of a connection at school. So my connections are actually out of school. And I wish I had connections at work, but I don't. There's some reasons I do that, because I feel like it's safer just to kind of go in, do my job and leave. And then there's no drama, even though I miss a lot of the things that are happening. But I decided to go back to school at a different age than some. With that, now I have this new little virtual community out of the University of North Carolina.
Okay.
And that's been interesting, because everybody's in the same boat in that respect. And also via Kathy, we have these little Rifert meetings that we had a lot during virtual teaching and learning. And that was really supportive, because it was really the first time I met with PE teachers that were motivated. And that was really, really helpful for me.
Wow. And you know, you mentioned the virtual groups and whatnot. I guess now more than ever, there's so many different ways that we can have that added support, even whether it be with meeting individuals in person or not. And I think that's probably, for some people, still a little bit of a challenge to think like, okay, just because, you know, I'm part of this group online, that it's not the same. It may not be the same, but we can't compare them either. They're two completely different things, but they're still falling under the category of support. So if, you know, in your case, Jill, I think it's important to note that, okay, yeah, you don't want it to be something that you do within the workplace, which is fine. It doesn't have to come specifically from there. If it's not something that you want, you know, and it can come from many different areas. The importance into what I'm saying and what everybody else is saying here is that, you know, having that support system allows you to, you know, really kind of learn from your situations, because you have those other people around to kind of guide you. You know, it's about how much community connection and social support that we have that's going to either prevent us from doing something or allow us to do something. So having someone in your corner, cheering you on, lifting you up when you're struggling. We've all been there. We all need it, especially when we are there. We know we need it more. Sometimes we just don't recognize it because we're so deep into our own self. And then sometimes it's really, really helpful to have those people to share the exact struggles. I believe Lauren was talking a little bit about that as well. And just noting that, you know, when she's communicating with Ingrid and things along those lines, and Kathy, I know you mentioned just be able to say, hey, you know, that ride was rough today. How did you feel? And if somebody else says, I'm right there with you, girl, it's like, okay, I know I'm not alone on that. Because, you know, they're working towards the same thing. It really, really makes a big difference. So, you know, it starts with taking something small. You know, Ellen mentioned wanting to start running more. So, okay, we've identified that as the area. And now it's one step at a time. So if you're not currently doing it, but it's something that you truly want to do, no worries, Jill. Have a great time. Thank you so much for joining us today. You know, so it's kind of one of those things that once you start, you kind of start getting in the mode, you start building up that consistency, that confidence, stringing together a lot of wins together. Who knows, it maybe becomes a part of who you are, whether you have that other person or that group of people or not. And eventually you're just going to be guided into that because it's what you're doing. It's more a part of who you are. You're going to be seeking that out. So support system of anything that I've mentioned, I think is super important for you guys. I know it helps me personally. And I know for the community that we've created in our program, it's helped our clients significantly. We have people who, either just coming into the area, who have a lot of friends in the area, who, whatever, it doesn't matter. They're making lifelong support networks in our program. And it makes a huge difference. And I think that's one of the reasons why I get this all the time. I have all different ages, all different fitness levels that I work with, from your first time exerciser all the way to your avid exerciser, from the ages 18 to like 75. Okay. And we all come together as a group, as a community, to be able to do similar things on a daily basis. Because we're all sharing the similar goals or needs. But at the same time, we all know that we recognize that we all get there at certain levels, but just to have that support and being able to do it together. The amount of times every week I hear from people, I've done, this phrase of, I've done fitness programs before, I've done exercise programs before, I worked with a trainer, I went to gyms, da, 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 da. I've never stuck with a program longer than I have with yours. It's because of that support system. So I have people who I know who have been with us for 9 years. And before that, every 5 months, they were going and trying something else for 25 years. And so much of it has to do with that support system, because a lot of times they were either doing it all alone, or they weren't applying themselves properly based on some of the things that we talked about here today, to kind of guide them in that direction. Kathy, how much more time do we have left? I don't want to go on any further. If, of course, some people want to share, and if you do, I can go on. I can talk forever. So.
We've got about 2 more minutes, 3 more minutes. So if we want to give people a chance to share and talk, I think that's great. I could listen to you all day, and I know somebody else, and then, yeah, we've got about 5 minutes.
All right, I'm picking up what you're putting down. So yeah, so the support system, big in terms of the stress aspect. If and my next point was once you have these things going down, it's about being as consistent as possible. And once we're doing one of these little things here and there, being consistent will allow you to obviously feel better about yourself, have more confidence, have more energy to help you do the things that you truly love. And as educators, I know exactly what that is. And that is to help people, that is to teach, that is to guide. One of my favorite, I used the word healer earlier. I have a client who is a psychiatrist, and she says to me, Ryan, me and you are healers. And she said this to me about a year ago, and I've never considered myself a healer, but you are a healer. And I'm not talking about the show Bluey, for those of you who know it. I'm talking about healers as in you guys help to heal other people's problems, right? And help to manage those things. So if we cannot heal ourselves, how can we expect to heal others? I will leave it at that. Questions, comments, concerns, compliments for me.
Well, I'm just going to say a couple of things. And I think one of the things that really resonated with me with this today is, and I hope we all struggle with this and it's not just me, but
no,
I can tell when I'm off, because I have so much less patience, and when kids are already struggling and they're in crisis, the last thing they need is for me to be short and that kind of thing. And I always know, like, when I'm getting sick, or if I haven't been exercising, or if I haven't eaten well, like, I can feel it, and I can tell in my temper, like, I have to be really careful. I have to stop and I have to take that breath. So a lot of the things that you were saying, all things that I think that we know, but we just need that constant reminder, and hearing it out loud is so important, because it's like, oh yeah, I should grab my water bottle. I need to take a deep breath, and all of those little things that we do know, but we need to be reminded of. And the other thing, I think that one of the things that is great about your boot camp thing, and whenever you have this opportunity to be amongst people of all different ages, I think that's such a cool thing, because everybody brings something to the table, and
it really is.
We all do the same thing. So I think that that's and Jill was talking about some of our Riper meetings. We have teachers who are just starting out, and we have people like me who have been here forever. But everybody has something to share, and I think that that's really important, to find kind of find your tribe and see how you can support each other. I think it's really, I love that a lot of those things came up in your presentation.
I completely agree with you there. And I think it's, I think it's hard too when you're in a group and you have a lot of varying different ages. You have to be open. You have to be willing to do those things, because sometimes it's hard. And I'm gonna put myself, in this category too. I don't know if you guys feel the same way, but as a teacher, as a coach, like we're always in that. We're always in that. We're the leaders, right? And it's hard to learn from others. It's hard to be open to learning from others. But when you're in an atmosphere or a group that contains many different likes of people or ages, it puts us in a situation to step back and say, you know what, wow, that's a great way of looking at it, or that's a great way of going about that, or doing this or doing that. So it only helps us to learn more about us, the things that we feel we are good at, what things we need improvements on. And in turn, that's only going to help us be better, like I mentioned before, as teachers or healers, or whatever it is you want to call yourself, to for the bottom line of being able to help those students or those people in your life. And I'm not just talking about the students, as you mean, but I'm talking about your family members, your friends, your coworkers, all that good stuff.
Well, I want to thank you very much, and I appreciate that you spent the time with us today. And
love it.
I know
Anytime.
you have big dealings going on, I believe, in your house, right? Coming up. You guys.
Yes, this may be the last time you see me on this earth, or looking like this, as in 2 days, we are venturing off to Disney World with 3 children, 7, 5, and 3, for 9 days. So if I return and I don't look anything like this, please don't hold it against me. I don't know. Yeah, we've done this. We are wily veterans in this, so we should be good. But this is our first family vacation since the pandemic, so we've had a countdown going for 125 days, and we are now 3 days away, and it's kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy right now, and I can't even fathom it. So yeah, so that's what we'll be doing very soon. So wish me luck.
I appreciate you spending some time with us.
I want to thank you for thinking of me, and if you guys find this helpful, I'd love to be able to do another talk at another time if you'd like. So thank you so much, everyone. I appreciate you all, and keep doing all the wonderful work that you're doing. Just know that I am one of your biggest fans, every single one of you. So just keep that in mind. If you're ever feeling down or low, I can easily be your support system to talk you up. And I hope from the bottom of my heart, I truly appreciate each and everything that you guys do. So thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Ryan.
Bye.
To everyone who's on the session right now, our last session is actually on the health literacy link. So if you want to cross over to that one, there isn't one on this link right at this point. So everyone's going into the adapted I think it's adapted PE one on the health link.
Someone asked Ryan to put his boot camp in the chat.
Oh, you know what? I'm missing out on all these chats. I can easily do that. I saw the first few, and then someone had to go to the dentist. All right, there we go.
I think you hit most of them. You got most of them, Ryan.
Yep. I'll just throw in my website right here. Thank you very much, everyone. Okay. There you go. Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you.